watching GeekCaster, everything sci-fi, fantasy, and geek culture. Michael, aka Seven, and we've got in the studio the one, the only,
Dayveonne Bussey.
And the classic, the original ball man,
Corey Davis.
And of course, our kung fu master, hidden in the pocket. Don't play pool against this man.
Xaya Nightwolf, my friend.
Yeah, you're watching GeekCaster, and we're going to talk with an extended conversation on AI. We talked about artificial intelligence a little bit about geekdom and the effect on jobs, as well as dating in the current world that we live in.
It's going to be up.
And we're going to go a little deeper dive on this, and glad to have Corey added to this conversation. So Corey, we're going to start with you because you weren't here for the last conversation we had on this. What is your take on artificial intelligence?
Right out the gate, huh?
Right out the gate. Bang, bang, bang.
Hot take. I think it is both interesting and scary at the same time.
Why do you say
Because
that?
Throughout history, we've always went from, restructuring to industrial revolution, and, the job market in life has always changed. And now we are in the biggest technology era of our time. And so the next step would be artificial intelligence. How we are using that is yet to be seen. I think the potential is great, but the downside of that is humanity is probably going to lose a bit of its natural touch, per se. So it's interesting to see how the jobs will change once AI becomes fully integrated in our lives. Will, STEM become a new thing? Will we have new coding, and with the whole multiverse, will jobs be happening in virtual reality? It's interesting to see where we're going to go forward with artificial intelligence.
That's interesting. And we didn't bring that up, having some virtual jobs. Now, when you say that, you mean as far as, because I know some people do real estate, like the virtual real estate, virtual goods and services. Do you mean like that, or just interacting virtually instead of at the workplace?
I think Ready Player One meets Ghost in the Shell meets Office Space. So we put on our VR goggles with tactile functions, and we move about in a digital space without ever physically leaving our apartment. So instead of going outside in 100-degree heat or, messing with traffic, you're at home, you go to work, and you're working in virtual virtual spaces that can, I haven't really gotten a full picture, but I think that's where Metaverse went to go with their idea of creating this Metaverse sphere.
Well, I've heard people argue about this, how since the pandemic, people have become more productive. Some people are saying people are less productive. Like if you work at your little computer and they monitor you being on a computer, there's coding now. There's little things that pretend that you're working, but you're really at the beach. Just moves your mouse around just to pretend you're doing something. Do you think that's going to increase, where people are going to pretend they're working?
No, I think it's going to change completely. So, like, we've had people find new interests. People started businesses using distributors. People are also going to find new ways to use the internet to make money. So I don't think we'll get to that point where people are pretending to be working. We're going to utilize that to our best ability. People are going to make some more money. Again, we don't know what that looks like because it hasn't been revealed or invented just yet. So,
Gotcha.
But it's coming.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And what about war? Like, do you think it's going to be more AI, computerized, or are we still going to have that physical contact when it comes to war?
Both. So I think war is going to be terrifying. So not only are you going to be attacked in the cyberspace, you're also going to be attacked with drones or computer based weapons. So as you're at work, they probably get your IP and know exactly where to hit you. It's a scary world to think about in that sense. So who knows? But I think war will change, but it'll also probably get a little bit deadlier.
Wow.
And what do you think about dating online and AI?
That's interesting. I mean, there are a lot of people who are hitting the swiping fatigue and have stopped looking online.
Right.
But there are also people who are finding solace in having virtual boyfriends and girlfriends and relationships and toys and everything else. So it's a give and take depending on your interest. So it's an interesting market to keep an eye on.
So I could see I could see more that.
Okay.
I could see more that people going to trust more AI filling their fantasy more besides an actual human connection.
Mm-hmm. Because AI is all built off of psychology, so they are less traumatic experiences you can have. You give up the touch and the actual sensation of having, body to body connection, but internally you'll probably be more satisfied psychologically with an AI who is reading your emotions and very in tune with you in that sense. So, who's to say?
Right. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, well, we see it in geekdom. Actually, before the show, we started talking about the strikes that are going on, the acting strike, the writer's strike. It seems like there's a battle for artificial intelligence or the use of artificial intelligence. I'm also communicate with other people in other sectors where how is this going to affect education? Like professors can't say, hey, write a 50-page paper because 9 times out of 10 these days, little kiddies ain't writing those papers, right? So there seems to be this battle for use. Everyone's trying to be smarter than everyone else. And following in the path of just extreme capitalism. How do I capitalize? Is this where you were saying, Corey, you feel some sense of fear or distrust?
Yes, because if you look at a kid's imagination, if you take something away, they are going to create something new that you haven't even thought about, right?
Right.
So if we take away the structure of education as we know it today, you don't have to learn these books and you don't have to go by rote and learn these poems. How else can we learn? How else can these kids use their imagination? Where are they going to create? So that's, again, hasn't been invented, so we haven't seen it yet. So that's the interesting part. What are we giving up to get to that point is the fear that I was talking about.
Now, Xaya Nightwolf, Mr. Nightwolf, I mentioned this before because you graduated not too long ago. Wasn't yesterday, but not too long ago. Now,
Correct.
Now, you're so funny. When it came to your papers and stuff like that, were people using AI when you were in school?
Were people using AI in school? Not necessarily. Like when it came to schools and everything,
like writing papers and doing presentations, did you kind of miss that window where everyone, because this has been around for a while, it's not really new, it's just that now everyone's talking about it.
Oh, hold. You mean like a AI doing things or something like that?
Yeah, for instance, when you were in school, was anyone using artificial intelligence to write their term papers?
Oh, well, I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, when I got an assignment to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's due the following day, I make sure I get that done.
Right.
I
But
make
was
sure I get
anybody
that
using
done.
it?
I don't.
Do you know anyone that used AI?
Mm-mm, I do not know
Right.
or recall anybody using AI.
Right. And they might
For
not say. They probably like, it's like that click of 4 people like, hey, but now
that's a
it's out there. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the crazy part. Like you never know who anybody is using these days because like AI is very interesting but also dangerous at the same time
Mhm.
because when it comes to writing papers, you guys are familiar with plagiarism, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like you can tell if something is not yours completely, but this is just very interesting to talk about it because like AI can also like play like a big role and stuff like this because like dating,
Mhm.
doing homework for you and everything. So I just say I honestly prefer doing things naturally in that way than just relying on artificial intelligence to
Right.
do my work for me. Because like what Mr. Corey here said, like like we lost. Nowadays, most of us are losing that touch. And I feel like that's kind of dangerous at the same time.
Mhm.
Of course, it's interesting, but it's also dangerous, where people are losing their humanity and losing their connections when it comes to that,
Right.
because nowadays, like, it's just too much nowadays, and people, be on this than going outdoors and meeting people face to face. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I may be on social media here and there on a day-to-day basis, but at the same time I still make sure I go out and get some air because I like to go outside. Like sometimes I could be um like I said in the last interview, like sometimes I be indoors, some days I be outdoors.
Mhm.
I don't want to get too much off topic, but
No, but you made a very
yeah,
powerful point. That's a very powerful point as far as losing humanity. Because the first thing I think about, I get it, been there, done that, the whole, writing papers and this and that. But the whole point is to see if you could, if you learned anything, or if you can gather information and then create some sort of, education. Like the education is not just a bunch of information; it's taking information and being able to apply it. That's the education part. But there's no way to, we're
yes,
losing ways to really measure if people can apply it because they're cheating.
Well,
exactly.
it,
Yeah. Now, also to add on to that,
Oh,
like,
Corey's going to say a joke. Look at
not
this.
a joke.
go ahead.
Now, this,
No, go ahead, go
Nightwolf,
ahead.
this is the first time I think you did a show with Corey. When his head starts to glow, that means he's going to say something funny. Go ahead, Corey.
Please.
It's not funny. I was just going to go the opposite way of that thinking because, like Zay said, if he had a paper that was due the very next day, he didn't really have to worry about it. He could jump on ChatGTP, say, I need a 5-page paper on this topic, 5 minutes later, and now you can go again, practice your martial art or, spend time with family or do something else that you're interested in. So it all depends on how we use it. We don't necessarily have to say it's cheating. It could free up our humanity to do something else that we are truly interested in.
But if they're not
Exactly.
truly
That makes
interested
sense.
in being if it's just to get a piece of paper, they can do that online, I guess. Or just don't do it all. Do something else. Because
Yeah.
I don't want someone doing surgery on me. Talk about chat. This thing did all the papers. You know what I mean? Or someone doing my taxes that the computer did all the. If that's the case, which actually this brings us to the bridge of talking about jobs. If artificial intelligence is going to do the job, then we shouldn't pay people to do those jobs. Or
Well,
we
this
should
is
pay them less, right?
I don't know. I feel like this is a good thought experiment to go with, because we all know the structure of school. You learn math, English, science, a whole bunch of subjects that you necessarily don't do if you want to be a doctor. If you want to be a doctor,
Right.
and all you need to do is study the system, the body systems, the organs, how to save someone's life. Why do you need to write research papers? Why do you need to learn all these higher levels of math that you can get away with by using AI? And you put more time into those things that you are more passionate about.
Right.
So I can see us giving up a lot of papers because people don't like papers on learning unnecessary things. And so we can use AI to balance that out, if that makes sense.
Well, some people in the educational sector have come up with a solution. They're like, okay, let's do a lot of presentations. Now, even though they're still going to probably use artificial intelligence to come up with a structure, but they still have to know what they're talking about. You know, when you go in front of the class and they ask you questions, you at least got to memorize and pretend. But, you know, the different points of light that you could touch to see how well someone is aware of something and knows a certain expertise level, like a bachelor's in something or a master's or doctorate in something, is starting to become lower. Now, does that mean that education in the terms of not what education really means, but as far as going to school, getting a degree, got a piece of paper, boom, you could do a job, is that becoming irrelevant?
I don't think so. Because again, you still have to put in those hours for whatever occupation you need. Now, is your occupation going to be totally taken over by AI? Do you need to incorporate coding and STEM into your occupation with AI? So, you know, it's 1,000 different avenues we can go down because we haven't really seen the big influence AI can have in the job market and in our lives.
I hear that. Dayveonne, how do you feel about your degree?
My degree is in broadcasting communications and film. So I will fall under the sector when it comes to AI with the things that's going on with SAG and the Writers Guild.
As far as what? Like, I mean, are you happy you got your degree? Do you feel that people coming after you might not have or be able to earn it in the way that you did?
We'll see. Because with my field, it was more hands-on. So you had to learn how to use a camera. You had to know how to write an interesting story. You had to know how to act. You had to also know how to basically do public speaking. So
what? No,
yeah.
I did a Corey moment.
No, because when you're basically a voice jockey, you got to know how to speak to the public. You got to know how to interact with your audience. And when it comes to dealing with AI, right now, Spotify has a AI system that does your music and selects it. So it's like a voice jockey that's giving you a heads up of what's coming next. But like I tell people, yes, it's, I'm going to say it like this. It's good, but it's not great because it doesn't have that person connection. It doesn't have that, yo, this is Dayveonne Bussey here at GEEKCASTER. And we, it doesn't have that. It's not personal. It's not bringing that excitement to the audience. It's just like, hey, this is your own personal AI. I basically mix all the music for you. And it's like, okay. So it's all depends on like with what I went to school for. It's all about how you present yourself, what stands you out from the rest of the crowd. Are you able to keep the audience? And pretty much the AI system that they have with Spotify, don't get me wrong, it's a good idea, but it's kind of lackluster boring.
Well, this is an interesting thing because there's actually a news station, independent news station in India. They launched their first artificial intelligent newscaster, and it's 24/7. So here's a artificial woman that is talking all day, every day, and basically giving the world the news. And the presentation was actually interesting. I mean, she was pretty much saying hello, and she was greeting people, and it felt slightly robotic, but it looked really real. Like I was surprised. It looks really, really good. And
what do you guys expect? We're in the infancy of AI, but we're talking like we're expecting this toddler, which is AI, to go out and perform like Simone Biles. Like, we have a long way to go between
Corey,
infancy and adult stage.
Like, but I'm telling you, Corey, Google it, look it up. She did a great job.
What you're saying? Better
than some of the newscasters out there that look like robots anyway. Like,
right.
Oh, welcome to the. She was better than that.
For example, I just pulled it up.
Okay,
yeah, I have it as well.
This is how he sounds. I hope we don't get strike or whatever, but this is how it sounds.
Good to have you here. You're with your DJ X. Coming up first here, let's get into a lineup of music you've been leaning into heavy these days. Tuxedo on.
Oh, you got good save.
And again, this is the infancy stage. We're not even in the toddler stage. We're not even in the adolescent stage. We're still in the infancy stage. So right now, imagine what happens once everything gets dialed in and you're like, oh, you know what? Let me bring up my DJ. DJ, I want to hear this. You know what? I got a playlist for you right now. And they play all these playlists. Yeah, I've seen her as well.
You saw her as well, right?
Yeah. Again, so how are they going to integrate breaking news?
Now, does she look like a robot?
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Not really.
Not really.
She doesn't look like.
Especially because
she does not.
Good.
She does not look like a robot. She kind of looks like an avatar from the game, Michael Jackson: The Experience.
Now, mind you, again, that's looking on my phone, through the camera thing, but it's shockingly realistic, especially if you watch a lot of foreign TV. They really go in with green screen.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that weird little film, but because of that, and you're used to that weird little film, it looks perfect. Simple. It looks real. Yeah.
But this is the thing. We have so many movies that have depicted what we're talking about right now.
Right.
How we use that and where we go from there is going to be completely different. So I think that's what we need to discuss, is how we're actually going to shape AI into being something useful and not something detrimental.
Well, wouldn't that be the kind of same conversation about guns, knives, and how do you stop people from not abusing it? It's a good conversation unless you open up the door to some sort of laws and restrictions. And I think this is what the unions are trying to push with the big companies that we mentioned before, is like, well, if the difference between me doing what I want to do and making the extra $10 billion, because I don't have to pay people, as much as I can pay them once and then forever use their image. Basically, their image becomes our slave, right? Like, what's the motivation for them to do the right thing?
But that's the key thing. Once you take the human element out of it, there's a whole other world that we can explore. Mm-hmm. So think about a house. You have someone protecting their house with a weapon. Mm-hmm. Now you have that human element. They have to identify who it is. What if accidentally you shoot a family member? That's very sad. But if you had an automated house that scanned each person, that knew who was family, who was friend, you have no issues. You're like, you know what? I can just go about my day and look at something else and not have to worry about protecting your home because it's already automated.
Gotcha.
So that's a decent conversation, I think, to also have. It frees up the human element to do more. What are we going to use AI for? that we as humans can also explore and do more with.
Well, the more that you leave,
Man, now
well, this is the thing. I think that's great, and I don't disagree with you. But the more we go down this path, we're also leaving ourselves open to more people manipulating the technology.
Or the technology manipulating the people.
all right, iRobot. I'm sure you just watched that movie last time.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned iRobot like last conversation.
Right.
It's probably one of the biggest robot movies. Ghost in the Shell, Ready Player One, Sword Art Online, Blade Runner. It's been done into the ground.
It's been done into the ground. But the reality of it with hackers, I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, I push it off to the side. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's not impossible for these things to happen. We've seen clips even today with robots that are starting to think on their own and taking information and processing it. But let's focus on just human beings that will say, hey, Corey, your house is automated. I'm going to take control of your house. I'm going to break in and take all your stuff. Because all I got to do is go, boom. You know, so we're leaving ourselves very vulnerable to Dayveonne's point, technology thinking for itself, but also, Corey, we're leaving ourselves open to other human beings manipulating technology. Should we do that?
Yes, I don't see what's wrong with that. We've done that countless times throughout history. When we had no technology, no buildings, what did we do? We made clothes, we made fire, we were intuitive. We made a way. Then we built buildings, and we have structure, and now we built weapons, and we had people to fight against those weapons. Now we have technology and AI. We're going to build something that makes us still human using the technology that we have created. We just haven't evolved into that next stage yet. It's unforeign to us because we haven't seen it, but we've done it countless times throughout history.
Oh, you know what? It's almost at the mark. I'm going to keep it going. So this is going to be end of part 2. Because Corey just hit some big things. I know, Dayveonne, you have something to say, so hold that for a couple seconds. For everyone watching us on Twitch, thank you very much. Continue to watch us. We're live. We're going to continue. Anyone watching us on Cablevision, Altice, Brick, in the city or in the Bronx, thank you very much. Continue to watch us. You just got to wait till next week. So I don't know what to tell you. Or you can go to our IG or YouTube or go to geekcaster.com. That's the easiest thing, and you could watch us there. See ya.